We're going to evaluate the integral of inverse sine of square root of x by using integration by parts. So recall integration by parts formula. The integral of u dv is equal to u times v minus the integral of v du. We're going to let the integral of inverse sine of square root of x be the integral of u dv, express it in terms of the right hand side of this formula, and hope that the integral on the right, the integral of v du, is easier. But first, we'll need the derivative of inverse sine of square root of x. So y prime is equal to, in the denominator we have square root of 1 minus square root of x squared. In the numerator, the derivative of square root of x, that's 1 over 2 square root of x. To simplify it, this is 1 over 2 square root of x times the square root of 1 minus x, and let's multiply two square roots together. This is 1 over 2 square root of x minus x squared. We can now proceed with evaluating this integral by parts. So the integral of inverse sine of the square root of x, we're going to call that the integral of u dv. The only choice for u is inverse sine of square root of x. We just saw that the derivative of that is 1 over 2 square root x minus x squared dx, and that means that dv is just 1 dx. Normally we would select v to be x. We want to make the integral on the right, the integral of v du, as easy as possible. So for now, let's call v x plus a, where a is a constant, and we'll find a, the constant that will make the integral of v du, as easy as possible. So by integration by parts, this is equal to inverse sine of square root of x, that's u, times x plus a, which is v, minus the integral of v du, which is x plus a, divided by 2 times square root of x minus x squared dx. Now the integral that we have left, this integral on the right, is done by substitution. We're going to let w equal to x minus x squared. dw is 1 minus 2x dx. Now let's factor out minus 2 so that dw is equal to minus 2 times x minus 1/2 dx. And dividing both sides by minus 2, we see that minus 1/2 dw is equal to x minus 1/2 dx. So our choice for a is minus 1/2. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back and rewrite this. We had the integral of inverse sine of square root of x dx. This is our integral of u dv. U is equal to inverse sine of square root of x. dv is equal to 1 dx. The derivative of u, once again, is du equals 1 over 2 square root of x minus x squared dx, and we're going to let v equal to x minus 1/2. Clearly dv is 1 dx, so we can take any constant and add it to x. So we chose minus 1/2 because it'll make the integral that's left easier. So this integral is equal to u times v, which is inverse sine of square root of x times x minus 1/2 minus the integral x minus 1/2 divided by 2 times square root of x minus x squared dx. So now let's evaluate the integral that's remaining. We'll evaluate it by substitution. So we have the integral x minus 1/2 divided by 2 times the square root of x minus x squared dx. We'll let w equal to x minus x squared. dw is 1 minus 2x dx. Again, we'll factor out minus 2, so this is dw equals minus 2 times x minus 1/2 dx. And so minus 1/2 dw is equal to x minus 1/2 dx. So in this integral we have the numerator, x minus 1/2 dx, that's minus 1/2 times dw. In the denominator, we have 2 square root of w. And this is equal to minus 1/4 times the integral of w to the minus 1/2 dw, which is minus 1/4 times 2 w to the 1/2, which is equal to minus 1/2 times square root of w. And let's change this back to variable x. This is equal to minus 1/2 times square root of x minus x squared. And returning to our integral, the integral of inverse sine of square root of x was equal to x minus 1/2 times inverse sine of square root of x minus 1/2 the integral of x minus 1/2 over the square root of x minus x squared. We just evaluated this integral. This integral was minus 1/2 square root of x minus x squared, so the minus and the minus makes it a plus, and our final answer is the integral of inverse sine of square root of x is equal to x minus 1/2 times inverse sine of square root of x plus 1/2 times square root of x minus x squared plus c.